Good morning, Council President Clark and members of the City Council. I am Debra McCarty, Commissioner of the Water Department. With me today are Melissa Labuda, our Deputy Commissioner of Finance, and Donna Schwartz, our Deputy Commissioner of Operations. Thank you for the opportunity to present testimony on the Water Department's fiscal year 2017 operating budget. Excuse me. I'd like to highlight several initiatives the Water Department has begun or continued over the past year. All three of our water pollution control plants achieved at least 5 years of 100% compliance with our Federal Clean Water Act requirements. We bid and awarded the East Park Reservoir Project, a $78 million contract with 15% minority and 10% women participation. We began implementing what we call quality of life specs in our public works contracts to help improve neighbors' experience during water main and sewer construction projects. We moved closer to our virtual merger of the Water Department and Water Revenue call centers, which, when complete, will provide a seamless customer experience and improve response efficiencies. We implemented self-serve metering appointments, which has improved customer service and decreased the phone time required of our meter shop staff, allowing them more time to service water meters and other assignments. We continue to meet our Clean Water Act stormwater compliance under the Green City Clean Waters program. We are on target to meet our first five-year target of 744 green acres by June 30th. We worked with the Schuylkill Navy to install 2 new water fountains along Kelly Drive. The department is currently looking to install more water fountains across the city and is in the RFI process for such a program. We increased the goal for the number of miles of water main relays from 22 to 28 miles per year. This effort will hopefully reduce the number of water main breaks and improve system reliability. We continue to build our workforce inclusion by continuing our apprenticeship and Power Corps programs. Our DBE vendor participation rate in fiscal 16 is projected to be 30%, with state and local businesses making up 89% of our capital projects. We've also continued engaging the vendor community by publishing the Take Part newsletter 3 times per year and hosting educational seminars, with the most recent held a few weeks ago at Venice Island, which welcomed over 120 companies representing both primes and disadvantaged firms. Also, we amended our regulations to allow for no-interest loans to customers to replace their lead service lines and to provide a $50 bill credit for customers who participate in our lead sampling program. These programs are projected to be available July 1st of this year. The Water Fund is an enterprise fund of the city, funded by revenues generated through charges to our customers. The Water Department's operating budget is a component of the Water Fund, and it is what we are discussing today. As you know, we are currently in the middle of our first rate case before the Independent Water, Sewer, and Stormwater Rate Board, which now has the authority to set the rates we charge our customers. We work hard to keep rates low by continuing to implement operational efficiencies. In fact, our rates compare very favorably on regional and national scales. We also keep rates affordable by offering several assistance programs to those in need. However, in order to meet our service goals and mandates, we are requesting an additional $32 million in our fiscal 17 budget over the current fiscal 16 projection. This increase is driven primarily by regulatory compliance, infrastructure maintenance costs, and labor and workforce costs. Finally, I'd like to close by noting that the work we do to provide our ratepayers with high-quality drinking water and cleaner streams and waterways would not be possible without the dedicated employees who perform their jobs day in and day out, no matter what the conditions. Thank you again for your time, and I am happy to answer questions. Excuse me.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
I had a couple questions. One in particular. Page 6 of your testimony proposal total operating budget water 418, and for 17, which is 32 million increase over 16. However, the FY16 you originally appropriated 403 million, but you're expected to spend approximately 386, which is relatively low by the end of 16. So there's a pattern of you underspending, which is, you know, in government, not normal. It's a good thing. But given that pattern of underspending and proposed rate increases of 6.2 in FY17 and 5.5 in FY18, can you please detail how these savings factor into the formula for the proposed rate? So you're spending less money than you're budgeted for, but yet you want a rate increase. Can you tell me?
Well, I can give you the short answer, but then I'll defer to my CFO. But basically, the rates aren't set to meet 100% of our budget, because we do factor in that, unfortunately, we can't spend 100% of our budget. That's, as you mentioned, it's actually not almost probably even feasible. But we work very hard because the money we're asking for, we truly believe we need, but we don't always.
Why do you need it, though, if you're not spending to the level of prior year's budgeted?
We would maybe budget for, say, $100,000 in parts, and maybe we don't end up needing to purchase all those parts throughout the fiscal year, or maybe there are challenges in getting them within that fiscal year, ordering them, things like that. So you have to budget because you anticipate that need, but you won't always.
Yeah, but you're budgeted, you're asking for an increase. I mean, if you were consistent, if you maintain a particular budget and over a period of time you underspent, so you would have a fund balance. We don't call them surpluses around here. If you have a fund balance, but now you're asking for a 6% increase in rates. I don't quite understand that. Why do we need such a significant increase in rates when we're not spending to the level of our budgeted amount?
Good morning, Council President. Melissa Labuda. If I may try to answer your question. So as Commissioner McCarty mentioned, we don't set rates to cover 100% of our budget. We set rates to cover approximately 90% of our budget, which means the gap between budgetary appropriation and rates is about $76 to $77 million, which is for unforeseen or unanticipated expenses. And I'll give you an example. Electricity demands, we have approximately 80% of our electricity demand hedged via the Energy Office, and the 20% is procured in the spot market or the day-to-day market. We have to anticipate those costs to have irregular patterns and not be at the hedged rate. So we have additional appropriation to cover that 20% of electricity that's not hedged. That would be in our class.
So are we anticipating a significant increase in electric?
We actually held our electricity total appropriation budget flat to fiscal year 16. What it means is there's about $4 million of additional appropriation to cover additional emergency needs related to electricity. It's the same capacity we ask for on chemicals. There could be conditions in the river that changes the turbidity levels, or the conditions in the river that requires us to treat the water drinking water that we provide to our customers with additional chemicals. There's additional appropriation.
Has there been a change in the regulations that required that, or?
Well, no, in fact, complying with the existing regulations. So a few fiscal years ago, we had to add more.
So we're not now complying?
Well, we are complying, but.
So why do we need additional money?
Because, well, chemical costs are one of our highest line items.
Okay.
They do vary as you go through the years. We work very hard to get the best rates we can, but if the river conditions change where we have to add more chemicals, for instance, ferric chloride or activated carbon happens to be one of our more expensive chemicals, and we had to do so a few years ago. We had the funds to do that. If we had not been able to add that additional chemical, we would not necessarily have complied with our regulations.
Okay, so say you get your increase, and obviously we hope you don't. So you have a significant cushion, and you come in under your budgeted amount. And the potential cost in utilities, i.e. electric and chemical purchases, they come in below expectations, basically maintain a stable level. Are you going to give that money back to the customers?
So in fact, our current rate increase doesn't cover the total water fund budget. We have offered a proposed rate increase that does in fact utilize reserve funds to bridge the differential between estimated spend rates and revenues. So we are anticipating utilizing our rate stabilization fund to bridge that differential in 17.
Say that again.
So when we submitted our rate increase, we contemplated using the rate stabilization fund to bridge the differential between rates or revenues and expenses.
So the rates are basically, said another way, the rate increase isn't as large as it could have been because we're tapping into the rate stabilization fund, which is what that's there for. So, and I also should note that there was no rate increase this fiscal year, and we are very competitive. In fact, we're a lot lower. Our rates are much lower than the surrounding areas.
All right. So the last time we were asked to increase, it was based on conservation methods, because we said we do so well in conserving water with all of the new programs and getting people to turn the tap off and all the other aspects. That's why we needed additional money, because we were losing money because we were doing what we were told to do. So that's not the case. Because if you told me that, I would say, okay, at least you're being consistent. But now there's like a new response. So I'm kind of like,
Well, I think it's
somewhat skeptical.
I hear you, but the fact is that consumption is going down, and it continues to decrease, and that's because of conservation as well as the fixtures that people are installing. Toilets need less water, and we're gradually seeing that over time take effect.
So I gave you a response to me. All right.
I'm sorry, what?
I said I gave you a softball. I gave you a response to my questions.
Thank you.
All right. Real quick. As it relates to cost of doing business, and, have you all, particularly since we've gotten involved with the Energy Authority, have you all looked at being able to generate additional revenue or reducing costs internally, i.e., if your electricity costs or your utility costs are increasing based on some information, and sometimes politicians, when we get information, we're dangerous, that there's actually an opportunity to generate internally energy for purposes of the water department? Is there an approach to that method?
Well, yeah, we do have, we augment our electricity consumption at our Southeast wastewater plant we have some solar panels. At our Northeast plant, we have a cogeneration facility which takes the gas produced from the wastewater treatment process, generates electricity. It basically can take the entire load of that facility, as a matter of fact. And also at our Southwest plant, we are using that gas as fuel for the heat dryer that processes our sludge, or biosolids. That's the correct word.
All right, so can you lay out, not now, but can you give me because we're going to be very aggressive on this whole energy issue. The city, I'll put it on myself until we create the 10,000 jobs. But I jumped out there and said we're going to create 10,000 jobs by virtue of energy retrofit. A significant part of that cost savings and creating alternative sources of energy were based on some of the issues with the water department. And we're looking at something up at the Art Museum now. Are you all in that?
Are you talking about the heat recovery from the sewer? I'm not sure.
No. Okay, you're not in that. All right. Okay, so can you just forward to us the list of proposed energy savings and efficiencies relating to your operation? Because we really want to get aggressive. While I understand consumption is going down, and that's a good thing, but there are also ways of saving money internally, so we don't pass that lack of consumption as a rate increase to the customers. We should be able to bring those costs down internally.
I mean, what I can tell you is for many years that has been on our radar. I think maybe we're even ahead of the curve in some respects. We control when we pump the water from the rivers, so it doesn't It's not during peak demand periods. We work very hard to make sure we conserve energy throughout all of our facilities. Using Energy Star motors, things like that. So it is something that has been in the forefront, I could say, probably for over 20 years for us.
Right.
And we're constantly looking for opportunities to reduce costs, reduce energy, reduce chemical costs, things like that. But yeah, we can get you something.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to, let's finish up. I'm going to have to turn it over to my colleagues. I mean, there was a time when we talked about creating an energy authority. I know you were around. I'm not sure if you were in the meetings. We were talking about using the river to generate electricity. And Barry Davis, I think at the time, was working with us from the law department, and he had a series of initiatives that made a whole lot of sense. And I just like to know what your department is doing with respects to that, creating some innovative ideas about those particular processes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Blackwell.
Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome.
I understand about this excess fund money that you all like to have, but I would certainly like to know how it registers in terms of emergency problems in our city. Specifically, all of you know about the pipes that broke in the street on North 52nd Street between Westminster and Wyalusing. And all of you know that these things happen from time to time in our city, so this could affect all of us here. And as you also know, it happened on June 14th, and the last time I talked to the mayor's representative about a month ago, they said that there were 34 people who were not taken care of, and I mean, there were issues like they had to check on water, on mold, and properties on many of them. And then they were saying, well, we're near ready to settle with someone. I mean, June 14th. And pretty soon we'll be at June again. And yet, you talk about having reserve funds, but that's very, very disconcerting that we have people, and as you see, I didn't contact them, I didn't ask them to come, and we try to be fair, but from June until now, we're at May again. For people to still have mold from last June 14th, for people to be sick, for people to not be compensated for the issues that happened when water came up to their kitchens, it's unconscionable. And I told everybody that I would not mention this every single week in council, but you all knew I had to mention this today and ask you where you are in terms of making sure that where are you? The mayor's office gave me the list even of 34 people about 2 weeks ago. So where are you with regard to helping those people? I'm sure you're going to tell me it's all resolved.
Councilwoman, I surely wish I could tell you that. What I can tell you is that 66 claimants have been, paid to date. There have been 12 releases so that payment is pending for those folks, and then currently there are 16 releases that
Say that again. You say that again.
So 66 claimants have received checks.
So you're saying 66 claimants have received checks. So they just gave in. All right.
12 releases have been issued, so the payment is pending essentially.
12 releases. So what does that mean?
Well, you have to sign a release to get the check cut.
And when will that be cut? We waited months and months when you say we agree and checks will be cut. What does that mean?
I can't speak for risk, but I can tell you that I believe it's imminent. We can check on that and get back to you.
Yeah, I knew releases did not mean they were going to get it any time.
Well,
so that takes us up to 78. And what was the third figure you mentioned?
And then there are 16 that are pending.
Pending based on what?
Pending on, some of it is, basically, we're in the last stages of settling all these claims. They're working on connecting with some of the claimants to just get the releases signed, things like that.
See, so you all,
Now, and what I can tell you also is that of the claimants, the 66 that I initially mentioned, if you recall, we did a lot of partial payments to folks, so because they needed to get, their car fixed or whatever that might be. So some of the 12 and 16 that I mentioned, the 12 releases and the 16 pending, some of them are duplicate people, so you can't add those numbers up and get the total number of claimants, but you can add those numbers up and get the total
I
number of
don't know
claims.
what that means. If you tell me that from 66 claimants that were not resolved,
No, I'm saying that 66 claimants have been paid. Some of those folks have additional claims because we did a partial. If you recall, you had urged us to attempt to resolve many of those issues, and risk management was able to make partial claims to many of the folks.
so how many? How many are
So there are
partial?
16 pending right now.
So the 16 pending are part of the 66, but they haven't gotten all their money, they've gotten
Some of
partial.
them, correct.
And then, so we have 12 releases that we think will come
Right.
before June.
Payment is in the process, right.
So that is still, that means out of nearly 100 people, and maybe more,
I actually think it's more like 78.
yeah, I heard that, and then heard at another hearing it was a different amount. You did tell us before it was 68, but then we hear different amounts from your department as well. So well, where do you get the number 66 if you admit there were 78?
So 66 have been paid already. Some of those 66 have additional claims. Those additional claims are included in the 12 that releases have been signed and the 16 who are pending to get their releases signed.
Mr. President, I cannot support this part of our budget process. I cannot support the water department. I cannot complain about it without us having this issue resolved. We always get all these different numbers. We had one, I won't go through the individual cases anymore, but I will say that for you to even know you're coming here, know we have these people who've been sick, who've been displaced, people we were paying car fare for and food, knowing how they were treated, but to say you have money you have to put aside just in case there's a problem is unconscionable. Mr. President, I hope that when we have our call back, we would like them to call back, and we expect them to have my issues resolved. And I ask my colleagues to beware. This could happen to any of you. Look at all the holes we have in the streets now that are not fixed from last year. And, but that we expect this issue to be resolved. So we will expect you to come back when we have budget callbacks. We always do, as long as any of us has a concern. And we expect this to be resolved. I don't know how else I can say it. I scream so much at the meetings, and nothing seems to work. I met with the mayor on it at least 3 times. He assigned staff to it, and we still don't have it resolved. So I don't know what I'm supposed to do, except maybe go out there. Maybe we got to do old-fashioned demonstrating or something. I don't know what's required, but I know I do not expect June 14th to be here again, and these issues still exist. It's unconscionable. It's unfair, it's immoral, it doesn't show that we care at all about the people who pay our salaries and the people who live and work here. It's so unfair. And this isn't an area, a rich area, this is an area where people are struggling. And so what we get is that you have money put aside. You have money put aside in case things happen. Well, I don't know what you want to happen, but it's unconscionable that you treat our citizens this way. We will not accept it. We'll never accept it. And we expect this issue to be resolved before this budget's passed.
Thank you, Councilwoman. And Commissioner, we will forward from the committee a detailed list of questions relating to that particular issue, and probably a couple of more, because I'm still not buying this whole notion for a 6% increase when you're spending less than your budgeted amount on an annual basis. That tells me you don't really need to have an additional cushion as it relates to your water fund. And we will have callbacks, and we would ask that you please respond to those very specific questions. And I anticipated that the Councilwoman would have those questions, and you probably should have too, given the interaction between the two departments. So we're going to give you that and ask you to please be prepared to respond to those questions.
Well, yes, I mean, we're working with risk management. I mean, it's in their hands right now.
You want me to bring risk management, and we'll bring them in, and we can have both of you at the table. Is that okay?
That's fine by me. I mean,
Okay, thank you.
But I would like to emphasize, my understanding is that we're in the final stages. It's just connecting with these 16 last people to get the releases signed.
It's okay. I mean, this is kind of like our only opportunity to have this level of dialogue. So, and this has been going on.
I'm always
for a while.
happy to have a dialogue with you, Council President.
Yeah, but when we're discussing your budget, we tend to get different responses than a traditional, informational hearing. All right, Councilwoman, we'll make sure we'll get that letter, ask our budget people to sit down with your staff and craft the direct request. Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilman Green.
Thank you, Council President. First, I want to commend the Water Department for the high quality of water they provide for the citizens of the City of Philadelphia. I know over the past number of weeks and months there's been a lot of concerns in reference to water quality, especially in reference to the devastating situation in Flint, Michigan. However, the real challenge in the City of Philadelphia has been not so much from the water quality, but from the actual means that water is delivered to citizens in the city by the lead pipes that may be in their homes. I know we've had ongoing conversations in this body and in various hearings regarding replacement of lead pipes, and based on page 4 of your testimony, you are providing a no-interest loan program, and I know there was some outreach you've done to try to get more people to participate in the program. The existing program you have, and also you talk about the new program starting July 1. What type of efforts are you taking to get the word out in reference to this new initiative starting in the beginning of the fiscal year?
We've sent out to all the RCOs in the city, all the registered community organizations, emails offering to come to their community meetings and present on the issue. Some of them have taken us up on it already, and I believe we've been to at least one meeting so far. We are constantly tweaking our webpage. We have a whole page on lead and improving it. Hopefully, we are trying and working with hopefully any leads that City Council can provide us to just reach out to community, any fairs or anything like that. We're always happy to attend and try to share the information with the public and get the word out.
Are you also putting information in the water bills themselves in reference to the program, or is that something you'll be doing come July 1 and later?
Well, we can, we are, yes. Oh, right, and I was just reminded that of our annual drinking water quality report. We've sent out the postcards for folks, and that's available online. And if someone wants a hard copy, they can get that as well. So we're trying many different avenues, but yes, the water, sewer, and stormwater bill as well.
Okay. Has there been any discussions in reference to talking with any of the commercial entities in the City of Philadelphia that do public service announcements, from television or media entities, to try to see if they'd be willing to provide this information through their networks as well?
Yeah, we've issued press releases, but we've not been, we haven't pursued public service announcements, so that's a good idea.
Well, I guess I would think that considering that the water issue has been such a prominent issue in this, and not just in Michigan, but across the country, that various media outlets may be more interested in hearing some of the steps that the city is taking to address this issue, especially considering that our bigger issue is the lead pipes in homes and not the water itself.
Right.
And I know there's been, I know CBS 3 did a story. I know Councilman Gimmons been very involved in this issue as well. But I think just being a little more proactive and using some of those opportunities to get the word out, especially considering that this is the real issue is the lead pipes in someone's home and not necessarily the water that's going into those pipes.
Right.
On a somewhat related but different matter, I know we've had some conversations regarding water laterals, which I know when I worked for Councilman Tasco, that was an issue for some of the constituents in her district and as well as other council members. And the water departments are looking at various steps in reference to what they're going to do in that regard. Has that decision been made, or are they still evaluating what steps they're going to do in reference to coming up with a program to address water laterals?
You're not talking about the help loan.
I'm sorry?
You're talking about the lead service?
I've moved from the lead service line to actual water laterals in reference to what steps the water department may be taking to help, although those are owned by the homeowner, what steps the water department may be taking to provide some assistance for people to address their lateral.
Well, there is the help loan. So if your lateral fails, then you can get a zero-interest 5-year loan to get it replaced. I mean, that's the assistance program we provide for basically the water and the wastewater side of customers' pipes.
Okay, so you're saying you're not taking any of those initiatives, because I thought there was some conversation about some other programs. I know National League of Cities have been involved in various programs, and there's been some conversations in that regard.
I'm not aware. Pardon? I can't. We are looking into, we've done an RFI for warranty program.
Right.
Sorry, thank you. And so we're evaluating the responses to those proposals.
Right.
And we're looking into that as well, yes.
And do you have any type of timeline on it, making a decision in reference to if you are going to issue an RFP or not?
I would think in the next couple months we'd figure it out.
Okay, so sometime
This summer.
at the end of the summer. Okay. Also, I know that you are doing a second generation advanced metering infrastructure system, which is part of your 6-year capital program. And can you give some perspective on that program in reference to, is there a pilot testing AMI systems in Philadelphia, and who are some of the vendors that are being utilized?
So we are looking at the next phase of AMR, and as you mentioned, that's AMI. And we have pilots, I believe it's 4 or 5 vendors, Aclara, Census, Itron, can't remember some of the others, but that we're piloting in up to 100 homes, these different vendors' product, and it'll help inform our RFP, which we hope to go out this fall.
This fall, okay. And my understanding that infrastructure system uses a technology that allows kind of a low-frequency wireless network. Is this a network that can be used by other departments in the city of Philadelphia, or is that capability available?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. And are you aware, because I know my time is up, are you aware of what other cities have done with this type of low-frequency wireless network in reference to allowing other departments outside of water to participate or to use that technology?
We've looked at what other cities and municipalities are doing. I am not aware of using the same frequency, using the same frequency to transmit information for other utilities.
Okay.
There is sharing of maybe a pole where the base station would be, but I'm not aware of sharing the frequency.
Okay. I'll come back with some more questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Dom?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman Greenlee, and good morning. Thanks,
Good
by the
morning.
way, for answering my questions on a separate letter that I sent you guys. I appreciate those answers. I have 4 quick questions. I want to try to keep it in the time frame. On page 9 of your testimony, I just had a question. It's a chart that shows the department's performance. And in the middle, it talks about the average time to repair a water main break. And it said in fiscal year 15, the actual was 5.7. But in 17, our target's less than 8. Well, I'm just trying to understand why we would set a higher time frame than what we're achieving.
It's funny you mentioned that because I looked at that and was thinking we should probably reduce that. Our goal has been 5 to 8 hours, but I agree that we have been outperforming our goal. It's probably worth looking
So
at.
you could just adjust that, because I hate to see us performing and then set goals that are less performing. Second question, I just want to verify that. Are we still, in this, I know this is in revenue, but are we still about $125 to $150 million of delinquent water and sewer bills, roughly?
As of the close of fiscal year 15, that would be the accurate number. I would need to check with my colleagues to give you and WRB to give you an exact number year to date.
Okay. And I know that Councilman Green was asking some questions, I think, on the advanced metering infrastructure system. And it's a $90 million cost in the budget. What is the payback that we're anticipating for that system in years?
Well, we believe that there are savings, but we're still trying to, that'll be part of our analysis, whether it makes sense to go forward with AMI or not. So I don't know that we have a number for you right now. We're still evaluating whether it makes sense to move forward. But we want a budget because we know that the AMR is coming to an end, and we're probably going to have to do something.
The system sounds great, and what it can do sounds phenomenal. And other utilities should have the same ability to shut off remotely systems or trickle the water when the people aren't paying
Right.
their bills or all those benefits that you'll have available. But I just want to make sure there's a payback of a certain amount of time associated with it.
Right.
But I think we should go full steam ahead and look at that system. Let me go back to Councilwoman Blackwell's comments about this problem at 52nd Street, I guess it is.
Yes.
She just gave me a sheet that was from a month ago that shows different residents of the city still waiting on mold estimates that occurred 11 months ago.
I'm sorry, waiting on what?
Mold estimates.
Well, I'm not familiar with that sheet, but what I can tell you is I know that we were in there a few times to do mold remediation. There may well still be the need. This is something that risk management has been managing, and I'm not sure the status of the mold remediation at this time.
But here's my concern. Mold is not something you play around with.
Correct.
And so as soon as we have a leak anywhere, you immediately do a mold test within a day or 2 or 3 days, whatever, just to make sure. This has been 10 or 11 months. So what I'm asking is we can't go back, but how do we set a date now that we're going to resolve these issues, get these tests done, and make sure these areas are safe for our residents?
Well, I do know that tests have been done at the properties of concern through risk management for mold. And and as I said, I know that a lot of the properties, their mold remediation did occur. I'm not sure what specific properties are
On this
outstanding.
sheet from a month ago, there's still 8 or 9 properties waiting for a mold estimate. That means the test was done and you're waiting for the cost of remediation?
That might well be. I can't speak
I know,
to
but I
that.
guess, I don't know, is your department involved in doing this work?
Not any longer.
No. We need to either get it done, subcontract it out, or get it done quickly. This cannot wait. This is not unacceptable. From June of 2015, it's now May of 2016, and we're still waiting on this stuff? We got to get this done. So anyway, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, a couple of things. First of all, I appreciate the work that is done by the Water Department. I've always said they're the smart one of the smart departments and has been very helpful in the fourth. I echo my colleagues' concern. Whenever there's a tragedy like this, it's the small people that wind up getting the worst of it. So whatever you can do to deal with that, I echo their concern. On to a different thing. How are we doing with our EPA resolutions? We had them about 5-10 years ago. Are we making headway with dealing with the federal government's concerns about some of our lateral systems and rainwater runoff?
So we're in, this June 30th, we're finishing our 5th year of the long-term control plan, the Clean Water Act mandated, EPA mandated requirements to reduce our runoff. And we're on target. Other folks actually know it as Green City Clean Waters. But we're on target to hit our 744 green acres and 600 million gallons of reduction in flow to our waterways.
That's progress. So I'm happy about that. That includes the plan to do bioretention, rain gardens, and things like that?
Yes, so it's our program. We believe we're leaders in the industry, so to speak, and so a bulk of our program is around green infrastructure. So the retention basins, green stormwater bump outs, porous paving, things like that. So yes, that's moving forward.
How is the water department doing with a school to work program, working with some of our young people, getting them into civil service jobs like the old CETA program, or how are we making headway with that?
Yes, we've been working with a few schools, Mastbaum, Randolph, and I can't remember the third, but excuse me, trying to, getting folks from high school and starting to work with us, and then hopefully becoming full-time employees with us. We also, PowerCorps is another awesome source of youth at risk to get full-time jobs with the water department, and that's been very successful as well.
So do you have numbers as to how many? So we asked the police department, we asked the fire department, we asked each department. We want to try to get it to scale. We believe that the best anti-violence measure you can do is give a kid a job. Mm-hmm. And so if we can increase and go to mass with that, getting them into our civil service ranks and in our union ranks, I think that's a worthwhile endeavor. So
yes.
Do you have numbers?
Yes. So our apprenticeship program, where we've used Edison, Mastbaum, and Randolph. Our first year, we had 3 students, and 2 are now permanent water department employees. Our second year in 2015, we had 3 students again. All 3 are ready to start into what we call phase 3 of the utility maintenance trainee, which makes them become permanent employees. And then this year, we have 6 students, and they're transitioning into phase 2, what we call, as vocational school interns when they graduate from high school.
So I'm going to consider that beta testing, that it can work, but I need 10 times that many a year in order to make a dent into, when we have the water breakages that we have to create that pathway. Mm-hmm. So to whatever degree we can do that tenfold, that would be, it's a good start, mm-hmm. Shows it can happen, but I really, really need us to consider our own Philadelphia stimulus package by hiring these young people to have lifelong careers. I mean, mm-hmm. City jobs are meaningful employment. Yes. And it's public service.
So we also, our PowerCorps, we've had 87 folks through our
well, you should have
PowerCorps.
That.
Well, I was trying to, but, that's a great program as well. We also work with Cobbs Creek, Jerome Shabazz, and working with those young folks. And then we also have summer internship workforce program, and the goal is to increase our diversity in the professional, like engineering, things like that. And so this is our 3rd year of doing that as well.
See, well, you should have led with the first number. I worked with you on those guys. You get good marks for that. As we increase that ability. We also have personnel needs with, people in drop and people finding employment in the private sector because sometimes it pays better. That steady farm team, if you would, is the kind of thing.
Right.
Finally, where are we at on smart meters?
So the AMI, we're in the midst of piloting the AMI technology, different vendors at approximately 60 to 100 homes per vendor, and that'll help inform our request for proposals that we hope to get out this fall sometime.
So we have a commitment to making that happen, and why is it beneficial to the city to get these smart meters?
It should increase the, reduce the cost associated with rolling trucks to go check on things. You won't be driving around picking up the pings off the AMR, excuse me. We'll be able to, as Councilman Dom noted, we'll be able to potentially shut off remotely with the trickle of life.
I don't like the shut off part.
I hear you, but there are a lot of features that will help improve our collections, hopefully, as
So
well.
my final question is, speaking to President Clark's earlier question, to the number one cost in producing fresh water is electric. Is that correct?
Electricity and chemicals.
So electricity is high up, if not number one. How are we moving to solar power, alternative energy to produce that water in any way? I know we had a demonstration project. In fact, now Mayor Kenny went out with us. Has that moved to scale in any of our other water treatment plants?
Well, yes, we have solar panels at Southeast Wastewater Plant, and we were able to get a grant for that to offset some of those costs. Unfortunately, the state and their SREC credits, that's made solar not necessarily the most cost-effective way to go anymore. But it is something that we're always looking at. We have a whole team of folks that meet monthly on how we can save energy, what technologies are out there, what makes sense for the utility.
So our former,
and the ratepayers, I should
our former
mention.
state reps, Parker and Johnson and others might be of use to you trying to navigate that in Harrisburg to get some support for that. You might want to reach out to them to see what's the best way to do it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Reynolds Brown.
Good morning, Mr. President.
Good morning. Afternoon.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
I have a long list of questions here, and so I'll lean on you to try to keep your answers tight so I can get through as many of them. And I do want to underscore the concerns raised by Councilwoman Blackwell, only because too often constituents do not have someone to vouch for them, champion for them. So that brings me to my question. What is the protocol between water and this for handling the type of crisis that Councilwoman Blackwell has spoken to and the subsequent question raised by Councilman Dom? For emergencies within the department, what is the ticker, what is the trigger that says we need to move to protocol B, which is different from a normal circumstance?
So, Water Department has some in-house claims adjusters that would respond and did respond to on June 14th. Large incidents like that where there are many claimants, risk management, they're always the oversight, but risk management provides claims adjusters as well and has been very involved with us in settling the claims.
And so the two principal departments that are immediately responsible for the fix of these type of constituent emergencies are water and risk management.
Correct.
Okay. In no way to suggest in no way to suggest this is a Flint. What is similar in the circumstance is the appearance of the lagging of getting it done quickly. And so it's been 15 months or more. what is your immediate next step to address immediately the concerns raised by Councilwoman Blackwell? Because this could be the seedling of bigger issues.
Well, I should mention that when the break occurs, our immediate response, of course, is to stop the water main.
Yes.
Right? But the next part is to get people's homes livable again, get people back in their homes, and that all occurred. Some folks, it took a little longer than we would have liked, and we've learned from this, unfortunately. But we have learned that maybe we need to have hotels available, figure out something with hotels for people. Truthfully, I can say that we could have done better on our response that first day.
And so then there is now a new blueprint or a new manual or a new SOP, which in my office I call Standing Operating Procedurals Amendment, that says, should ever this happen again, this is the new way we'll be dealing with this kind of crisis.
Yes.
Okay.
And we're working with other agencies as well that assist with the response.
Okay. And so Councilwoman Blackwell's concern is, let's tie a little knot in this quickly. Let's put a period at the end of this crisis and get it done.
I would love to.
So we'll look forward to the return of your department and your designees during the callbacks. Let me thank you for the seemingly improvement and progress with regards to what your organization looks like. Since you know there's the prevailing cry that we make sure we have a government that looks like Philadelphia, I was looking for the grid that you sent us, and I noticed that that department is well represented with women, and that people of color have moved to positions of leadership and responsibility. Of course, I can't find it now. And so those at your executive level, terrific, thank you. Those at your executive level, according to this chart, includes 7 women and 7 people of color, correct? According to this chart.
At the executive level?
That's what it says according to this chart. Is that not so?
Are you on page 5 of the testimony? Or?
Demographics, FY16 staff demographics. That's a part of your testimony. It's a grid that breaks down what your department, how well it looks like Philadelphia. While you look for that, let's go to the bilingual, which is an area that Councilwoman Sanchez and Councilwoman Gim would be concerned about. So you have 1 bilingual person in a city that's...
No, we have 119 bilingual, and they speak 37 languages.
Forgive me, what did you say?
119 bilingual employees, and we determine this. I mean, they have to share that. We can't demand that they tell us whether they're bilingual, but they have self-reported. 119 employees have self-reported that they are bilingual, and the languages that those 119 speak, there are 37 different languages.
That's encouraging. I was looking at the executive staff here. Okay.
The other thing I can share is that we very much use the language line and those services. I've even been able to use it on one occasion and carry my card. I have my card at all times, my language line card, wherever it is, in here somewhere. It's my reference, so I can use our department number and call the language line. We push that out to the field units. This is something we take very seriously and think it's very important.
Okay, I'm going to circle back to the demographic staff, because that bell is about to ring, and I want to get a couple more questions in. So one program I continue to be very excited about and hope that we can expand is Power Corps.
Yes.
And what's the future relationship of Power Corps with the Water Department?
Well, we are hoping that we can continue with that program. We very much support it. We support it financially, as well as we've had 87 participants in the Power Corps. So it's an awesome program, actually.
It is, in that it gives people who might not ordinarily have a chance to learn about what you do a chance to a real job. So you say we hope to, what does that mean?
Well, as long as the program continues, that we're going to support it. I mean, it's not our program.
Our fiscal 17 budget does contemplate approximately $230,000 of funding for the program again, as it did in prior years.
And that will capture how many young people?
I have to get back to you because I'm unsure of that metric.
Okay, so you can do that today while we're waiting for the next round. And I'll wait for the next round to ask subsequent questions about PowerPoint. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Let me start with the issue that Councilman Green talked about that doesn't ever seem to go away. 10 years for me here as a staffer, this was one of the #1 infrastructure issues in the 9th Councilmatic District. Left here for 10 years and went to the Pennsylvania House and held meetings, and it was still the #1 infrastructure issue in the 9th Councilmatic District, and that was the water main replacements with the water laterals. You don't have to give me an answer now on the record, but when you go back to the department, please forward to the council president for our review an actual schedule of 9th District, and probably for all of the district council members, I'm sure they would be interested for their respective regions, a list of scheduled water main replacements, water lateral replacements, and our schedule for coordination with other city departments. And it has really been, a challenge, and I know you all have done better with coordinating the activity between streets and water over the years, and I do commend both departments for doing this, but every now and again, the questions that we get were, one, when were we going to be notified about it? I'm talking about residents on the block. Well, the water main replacement took place, but then right after that, something happened with the streets departments, and it's very rare. We don't get it as often as we used to years ago because you've strategically done better with your planning, but we will get it every now and again. So if you could get that information to the council president for all district council members, that would be extremely helpful, and we can communicate that directly to our constituency as we're having various meetings throughout the season.
And I can say that one of the things we're working on is, in addition to the quality of life specs, so making the contractors be more respectful with things like where they put their dirt and things like that, but also we're working hard to communicate sooner to folks that are going to be impacted. So about 6 months out, they should be receiving a letter, and then about 2 weeks out, they'll receive another letter notifying them that we'll be out there, and the construction and the activities, and who to contact if there's an issue. We're going to have an inspector there, of course, but if they want to call somebody, that as well.
And the reason why that was very helpful, what you just mentioned, if when you send that information to the council president, you can put the actual street, sort of first notification by this date, second notification by this date, because obviously for us, we would want to, as the district council members, have that information in advance, and you literally can check. So when those calls, and they do get, the volume increases tremendously as you move sort of block by block. So if we could have that up and just be able to have it, each of our desks to be able to communicate when the public calls our office, that would be very helpful. So thank you for noting that.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to know that when we send the list because it's dependent upon when we bid the job. But we could add you to the, when we send it to your constituents, I think we could probably add you to that list every time your constituents gets letter saying we're going to be there in 6 months, we can make sure you get that, and then the 2 weeks if that's what you would like.
Great, yes, that would be helpful for us, but it would also be great if you could give it to us, if you're planning, and you're about to mail to them, if you could give the district council person just a tad bit of advance notice, because it helps us when we're preparing. So if the notice is, we know that we're planning and it's electronically being produced to go out to 200 residents in a particular area, I think your guys may know at least a week before, you're about to send out those 200 notices that they're going to take place. So if we could get that in advance, that would be helpful. I want to get to the next portion of my questioning, and I sort of walked into this as it related to the stormwater management process. And so we have tree trenches, and then we have the water basins, and there have been 3 locations in the 9th Councilmatic District in particular as it relates to the above ground. Now, there is one site in particular, they have 3 underground and they have 2 above ground. And so what is the process for notifying the public when a water basin, particularly something that is above ground? Because that's when aesthetically it does impact the community at large. And let me give you an example. One institution has 2 above ground basins. One is situated on the corner, a very well-traveled corner, and the other about 100 feet away in the middle of their property, but right near school. And so residents on each side of the street and those driving by have to physically look at these sites. And we know that there's a financial incentive to those individual private owners who participate in our program. In this case, I think this private owner has received like an $1,100 per month like savings. At least that's what was communicated to me, and I think that is great because I want to encourage as much participation as possible in the program. The challenge is this: because it's on private property, but although physically and aesthetically in the view of homeowners, there are questions regarding potential mosquito beds and rodents and the physical aesthetic appearance of it. When it's new, it doesn't look as aesthetically pleasing as it will when the flowers grow or whatever is there. And people are extremely upset about it. And so I want to know, how can we, not how can we, I'm asking you, will you or can you include in that process for the private owner a requirement that they have to have a meeting similar to what we would do with the RCO or something or an entity needing a variance with zoning, that you have to have a meeting with residents in the surrounding community? Because in this instance, they met with the community, but only after they had entered into the agreement. And I'm gonna come back around, Mr. President, with the line of questioning on this one, because we have to be able to do that. And so now when they see it, they call the office of the district council person and say, how did you let this sort of take place and occur without a formal notification and or meeting having been required to take place in which we were invited? And as I checked with the staff of Councilwoman Tasco, again, these were done prior to my being sworn in, I was informed that the entity had a meeting and didn't organize the meeting in conjunction with the council office, put together something independently, who they contacted. We've got to develop specs for all of that because it's really becoming a problem. It's moved from the northwest section of Philadelphia over to Longcrest and Lawndale now. I'm starting to get questions and concerns about that from those who weren't able to attend a meeting that was organized recently, and we've got to find a way to do better. And it can't be after the decision has been made. The community has to be educated before.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilman Green.
Thank you, Council President. I wanted to follow up on some of my questions regarding AMI. my understanding that AMI, I want to focus on some of the customer service aspects of it. It will be able to prevent water leaks going forward, as well as stopping some of the high bills that customers may receive?
Well, yes, it should help customers be able to detect if there's a leak in their property. Right now, you find out in your monthly bill.
Right.
You'll be able to, we're trying to collect the data now when customers call in. Water Revenue's collecting emails and working on collecting emails and phone numbers. So there's a contact when and if we do go to AMI, they can be alerted that, looks like you have a leak in your property, you may want to check.
Right.
So that'll reduce, those high bill surprises and things like that.
Right, because that's been a bone of contention. I know from some of the issues I've been involved in over the years where a customer didn't know, especially didn't know that the water was leaking. There's a dispute between the customer and the water department regarding the source of the leak.
Mm-hmm.
Now also, under AMI, will you need to replace every meter, especially those meters that may have lead?
No, well, our meters are not an issue, should not be an issue. We do not need to replace the meters as part of the AMI. We've done testing on the meters and found that they they're going to last a lot longer than necessarily anticipated, which has made this project more affordable and reduced the cost of it.
And then the vendor, I know you're going to a pilot right now, but the vendor that's ultimately selected, will that vendor manage the entire network?
We're not sure how we're going to do that. I mean, that's one of the things we're learning right now.
Okay, that's part of the pilot process, I understand. And also, going through AMI, my understanding is going to be a significant savings. And is this going, and can you kind of give some perspective on the type of savings? Is this going to be a reduction of vehicle costs, a reduction of some of the issues regarding theft of service and benefit of doubt? Can you give some perspective on the savings?
One of the things that we'll be able to more quickly know is theft of service. So there should be some savings there if we should be getting a report. Right now, again, it's a monthly, we find out about that customer on a monthly basis if someone has taken the meter offline or things like that. So that's a savings. The savings of rolling a truck, as you mentioned, there's savings in there of not having to roll trucks, to be more targeted in how we address what the problems are and things like that.
So considering this investment is about $90 million, have you been able to quantify what the amount of the savings will be from AMI, especially in those categories we just discussed?
We're still looking at, again, the business end of if this makes sense, as Councilman Dom had requested.
Okay. And just one on the last point, you earlier were talking about solar with Councilman Jones and talking about SRECs and the credits. And although I know the credits are no longer as valuable as they were, especially during Governor Rendell's administration when we had Growing Greener 1 and 2. However, technology has dramatically changed the cost of doing solar. So although the credits are not as valuable as they were at one point, the other side of the equation is that the cost of doing solar has dramatically come down. I know we've had hearings in this body regarding solar panels on school buildings. That's something the school district is investigating. Mm-hmm. So I would encourage you to look at solar again.
Oh, yeah.
And you talked about it in some of the buildings you currently have, because although the credits are not as valuable like they were, the cost of doing solar from a technology perspective has come down dramatically.
Right. It's
and
very
provided
exciting.
more opportunities.
Yes,
Right.
It's very exciting. I mean, I remember when I was going to school in the 70s, solar was the latest and the greatest, and have been very disappointed that it kind of fell off the face of the earth, and now it's back with a vengeance. So we have an energy committee that looks at these things and looks at what makes the most sense for our ratepayers, and so solar is definitely in our radar, for sure.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Blackwell.
Thank you, Mr. President. Two short issues. One is, and we spoke before on lead in the water. And I know the water department said they would be happy to work with citizens on some loan for another problem they didn't create. I do not agree, and I would hope that council would also agree. We just can't make people pay for everything. They probably hit the same people they won't fix their pipes now and then tell them they owe something else because there's lead in them. Very, very unfair. Also, we passed legislation that will allow for homeowner properties to have an agreement with Water Department with bills they cannot pay so that they could maintain water service and be able to pay on back bill. My staff just reminded me they've been asking about it 2 years. So I would hope that the status of that program is available so that people can keep their water on and pay on a back bill. Where are we?
So you're talking about the IRAP program?
I don't know what you call it.
Well, right now, customers can get into payment agreements with Water Revenue Bureau, but there's a program, Affordable Rates Program, that we have requested the rate board approve, and it's based on the federal poverty level, three different tiers, and it's in the rate board's hands. We have requested and believe that it's a very good program, and we should know in June, hopefully, if it's supported.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Reynolds Brown.
Could we please shift our thinking to your online bill pay? And I've learned that those who opt to pay online are also required to a $4 fee. So if a person's average bill is $30 per month, this fee essentially equates to a 13% additional charge. So the question is, I don't want a yes or no. Give your perspective on why this approach versus promoting online bill pay, because in some ways some might argue that taxing people who choose to utilize this efficient and, quite frankly, environmentally friendly option might seem incongruous.
Yes, we're not fond of that fee either. There is a paperless way to do it, and that is through.
You said there's a what kind of way to do it?
There's a paperless way to do it, and I just went brain dead on the Zip Check. Thank you. I'm in the program. I'm in Zip Check, and so you could sign up for Zip Check. Unfortunately, not a lot of customers do, but it would be automatically withdrawn from your account. You still get the bill before that money is withdrawn from your account. So if there are issues, you can contact the Water Revenue Bureau to get that addressed beforehand. We are working with Water Revenue on how they can do an e-pay program.
So whose decision was that then?
The $3 or $4, I guess. I think it's
Yes.
$3.95 or something like that. I believe that's the cost that is imposed by the vendor for the city. I don't know enough about it to really address it, though.
So it's the vendor of the city that's getting an additional.
It's a processing fee or whatever, yeah.
And so the question becomes, can we not find vendors who believe in being environmentally friendly and opt for them? So who made the decision about the vendor?
Good morning.
Pull your mic up, please.
Sure. Good morning. I apologize for not being closer to the mic. The Revenue Bureau selected the vendor. We would have to contact our colleagues at the Water Revenue Bureau, because we don't collect nor bill for our rates and charges. We need to seek the answers from the WRB. I apologize for not being able to answer your question.
No worries. When you, on the call back, make sure there's a paragraph devoted to the answer to that question and why. Adequate discussion has been given to smart water meters. What are the current sustainability initiatives the Water Department is participating in? ID3, just as an update. My staff and I went to visit one of the, last year's retreat in Councilman Heenan's district. The watershed, simply to learn about what that is and what it looks like and the like. So just update us on a couple of other initiatives that are maybe in the pipeline as it relates to sustainability.
So You're talking about our Green City Clean Waters program, and we are we're honing in on June 30th, pretty quickly, about 2 months away, where we'll have our first 5 years in of that program, and we are meeting our goals of 744 green acres, which results in a reduction of 600 million gallons of combined sewage getting into our waterways. So we're very excited about that milestone, but that we're still continuing to look at ways to improve how we do that work and how others do that work as well.
So when you say we, what does that mean? Is that a task force within water? Is that a number of professionals across city departments that are looking for ways to work smarter around sustainability? What does we mean?
Well, we as the water department, of course,
Okay.
that we're always looking for others' ideas, good ideas, and it's not to say that we don't use consultants to bring ideas from elsewhere, but it's a federal mandate for us to reduce our combined sewer overflow, so it's the onus falls on the water department at the end of the day.
Okay, the bell has rung. I'll wait to the next round. I just have a few more left. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to go back to the line of questioning regarding the water basins and just ask you if you have any comment in regards to the notification process, and if you could just state for the record how it works now.
On private property, as you were
Yes.
referring to, well,
Yes.
we basically, if someone wants to improve the capture or reduce the runoff from their, of stormwater from their properties, to comply with our regulations or to reduce their bill, they have to submit what they're going to do for review. And one of the things we look at, and you noted of concern, is making sure that the water infiltrates quickly so as not to harbor mosquitoes, which is obviously an issue all the time, of concern all the time. And but we, on private property, really don't have too much authority. We do inspect to make sure that if you're getting the stormwater credits, you are complying and maintaining that stormwater infrastructure. But in terms...
Let me just interrupt you there. So it's on private property and we don't have that much authority. Does the water department have the authority to be able to tell any private citizen interested in participating in this program, in the specs for it, that if you want to participate in this program, it is contingent upon your off the checklist or the checklist of all of these things that you have to do in order to participate, adding a line that says you must have a community meeting with residents who are within 100 to 200 feet of this location. Does the water department have the authority to make that a requirement?
If they are receiving a grant from the department, I think it is something we can look into.
Okay, so when we talk about, I just wanted to state for the record when we talked about our authority, because those who are participating, and one of the things I lauded that the department participates in is the financial incentive. It's extremely important, and it's actually been effective in encouraging private owners to participate. So I want to just ask us to make sure that we've done that and just made it a requirement, just from a notification perspective. So
We can look at that.
thank you, and please keep us updated on that. The next question, and you may have talked about this, and I just did not hear the response. On page 8 of your testimony, you note that the water department has 15 apprentices. And describe the apprenticeship program. What's the length, capacity, the types of positions? How does an individual apply? How's an individual selected?
Well, the apprenticeship program is done through the school district. So we're working with Edison, Mastbaum, and Randolph, and it's a growing program. We are targeting skills such as electricians, HVAC mechanics, building maintenance mechanics, engineering aides, and instrumentation technicians.
So one, obviously, I was extremely excited when I saw the program, but Council President Clark, given the announcement that you just made last Thursday about Temple University's agreement with our local laborers district council here, I want to request that Water immediately, if at all possible, find out about that arrangement between Temple University along with the laborers that the Council President worked for a very long time to put together to see how we can include young people who are participating in that program from the laborers to potentially participate in this apprenticeship program. That would be great.
I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with that program.
Temple University, Council President, and you feel free to interject, has entered into an agreement, I believe you just described, with the Laborers District Council?
Yes, they're going to build and I'm kind of stealing their thunder, but I did run off at the mouth the other day. We're going to be building a new training facility on North Broad and Girard. They're moving the training facility that's currently in Exton, Pennsylvania, moving it to North Broad Street. It's going to be a state-of-the-art. So we'll be training individuals in all aspects of certain levels of construction. So it's a sign that, clearly we're responding to the need to create more opportunities for people in the city. One of the things they found that having it in Exton, it was challenging for people who, frankly speaking, had to take care of their families to go to Exton and come back.
Exton's a hike.
So the fact that the Water Department, as Councilwoman said, is right here, our ability to enter into a similar approach would be quite significant.
Well, we would love to work with Temple on how we can hire some of those folks, for sure, yeah.
Okay. Talk to Ryan.
What's the timing on that?
Pardon me?
The timing on them getting that going, do you know?
Hopefully sooner than later.
Okay, I hear you. We'll keep our,
Yeah, they're going to, I'm like blowing all of the announcements, and they're going to kill me for this. But there's going to be a big announcement, then they're going to start the process.
Okay, I'll pretend I don't know until
But they want to move sooner than later.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for that tip,
Sure,
Councilman.
thank you, thank you. Now, the next question is in regards to the AMI, and I think you talked a little bit about the savings, but I wanted to know if you could talk about who's going to manage the network, just so that we understand. Will the vendor manage the network? Will the city potentially manage the network? And are there any other utilities in the city that have the network like PICO? And so when I think about cost savings, I immediately say to myself, well, wait a minute, not just Philadelphia Water Department, what PGW? Tell us if there is any precedent for that.
Well, we still haven't figured out what that is going to look like, what makes the most sense. Some of it will be based upon what the responses to the RFP are as to what makes the most sense. I think we want to get the most cost-effective program we can, and by leaving it somewhat open in the RFP will help us do that. It'll give us the opportunity to get the best system at the lowest rate, one would hope. But right now, I believe, and again, we're still in the early stages, so I can't give any definitive answers on who will do what at this time.
And the last question was, are there any other utilities that have such a citywide wireless network like PICO? I mean, does PICO or PGW have this kind of network in existence?
PICO does.
PICO does.
Yeah.
Does PGW have this kind of network?
No, not right now.
Okay, no, okay. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilman Don.
Thank you, Council President. This is a question I've asked before. I feel like, remember the Johnny Carson show? Karnak, remember that? So I'm going to give you the answer. I'm going to hold my piece of paper up, okay? And the answer is, how do we save $3 million? I can give you the question, but let's see if you can find it.
I think the answer is e-bills.
What's that?
I think it's electronic bills, because we
That's
spend
exactly
$3 to
right.
$4 million a year annually on mailing bills.
So my question is, can we get this done? What's the time frame? We mail out, 5 million pieces of water and sewer bills a year, 600,000 real estate tax bills. We have a much better system if we could computerize both, and we'd save a lot of money, postage, et cetera, and probably something we should be doing this year. My question is, have we made any progress in that area?
Well, it is on the, it is something that we've met with Water Revenue's consultant that manages the billing system, and it is on the list, and it is something we've been pushing for. They know it is a high priority. I can't tell you the current status of it, but it is a high priority.
Who do I have to talk to make sure this happens?
Well, it will happen, but the time frame, I mean, Michelle Bethel was the deputy at Water Revenue Bureau, so it's really under her jurisdiction, but we work with them collaboratively to try to make sure initiatives like this are moved forward.
And that's a quick savings, $3 to $4 million, quick. Anyway, thank you very much. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Reynolds Brown.
Thank you, Mr. President. So help me understand, as a follow-up to Councilman Don's question, where is the dilemma? Where is the blocker? What is the impediment?
For the e-bill?
Yes.
Programming the billing system. There are many different things that need to be done with the billing system, and some are a higher priority, of course, than others. This is, as I said, a high priority, but it's a matter of getting the resource, making sure the resources are dedicated.
It's a matter of what?
Making sure the resources are dedicated to getting the programming done.
Okay, I really am having a difficult time hearing you. So if we had to look at a time frame, are we looking by next year's budget session, a year from now? What do you anticipate the answer will be to Councilman Dom's question, if it is a high priority?
I'd like to consult with the Water Revenue and get back to you on that, if I may. There are many billing system changes on the horizon. For instance, if we are successful with the affordability program that we've asked the rate board for, we have a very tight time frame to get that done, and that is a very, very high priority. So that's a programming initiative that will have to occur over a 12-month period.
That actually goes to my next follow-up question. When you say you'll get back to us, what does that mean? That you'll have the answer during callbacks? Or are you going to have the answer a month from now? Are you going to have
No,
the answer?
I hope to be able to consult with Water Revenue and get back to you.
During callbacks?
Shortly.
So
yeah.
Okay. Well, we have to be specific because
I'm
then
sorry.
Sorry.
All right. Now, it's not an endless...
Okay, so to the affordability legislation, the work of Councilwoman Sanchez, articulate for us, let me get this right. So I understand that the Water Department currently maintains more than 300,000 age residential liens worth more than $200 million, and you expect to collect only a small portion of that debt. What is your perspective with regards to the new water affordability legislation sponsored by Councilwoman Sanchez, and how that's going to help the department collect those debts in a far more aggressive way?
I think we fully support and are looking forward to the affordability program, IRAP as it's known. It will help customers, we believe, will help customers pay their current bills. The penalties for past payment and fees would be waived.
Effective when?
When they would enter into an IRAP agreement, if you will, for lack of a better way of stating it.
And so then we have to assume that efforts are underway in the department to help citizens understand that they can avoid foreclosure and sheriff's sale by learning about the provisions of this legislation. Is that fair to say? Because what we're hearing is an increased effort with regards to foreclosures and sheriff's sales. What do we do to mitigate and sort of calm the fears of citizens that they're not going to end up in front of the sheriff's sale and foreclosure?
Well, I mean, customers can always enter into a payment agreement. As long as they stay current, that should keep any sheriff's sales from occurring. And that's today. Right now, it's just not the program that we've asked the rate board to approve. But there is it's called WRAP, Water Revenue Assistance Program, and if you can enter into that payment agreement with the Water Revenue Bureau, that should keep, your property off a sheriff's sale.
So what I've learned the hard way is that if you don't make new initiatives, new legislative initiatives, what I call dummy-proof, then you end up with citizens who are still got a rope around their neck looking at foreclosure and or sheriffs. So what marketing strategies are underway for citizens who are going to end up in a bad place if they don't know that this piece of legislation is designed to save them?
Well, that is one of the initiatives we need to undertake once we know whether it's approved by the Water, Sewer, and Stormwater Board. So once that rate board in June gives their decision, and we know what that program they've approved looks like, then we'll be outreaching to the public. But it will not be immediately available because we have to make the programming changes in the billing system.
I see.
That'll give us time to hire the staff needed, or water revenue time to hire the staff needed, and also advertise, push it out, get it to community organizations, let folks know about it, because we believe it is a really good program and will help those in need for sure.
So if you know it's coming, and you know that there's going to be some kind of positive yield for citizens, why do you have to wait for an affirmative action by this board you talked about with regards to preparing for staffing up and having marketing materials, at least in draft form, ready to roll once the tweaks are made based on the decisions of this board? I simply don't get why we in government can't walk and chew gum at the same time.
If they don't approve it, then we've done all that for naught.
Okay. So what impediments or hurdles would suggest that they might not approve it if the Water Department indeed supports this in the way you just articulated?
This is a new rate process. We've never gone before the board before. So there are a lot of uncertainties. Just because we support it doesn't mean they're going to rule in our favor.
I see.
There are others that, maybe don't agree or, and I can't speak for the board.
It doesn't look like there's anyone else. Just a couple, unless it's you, Mr. President.
You're the only one teed up.
Okay, thank you. So who sits on this board? Are they citizens of Philadelphia?
Yes, that's one of the requirements. They all have to reside in the city of Philadelphia.
And how many are on this board?
5.
And who are they?
So Mike Chapman he's of Chapman Ford, by the way. Alasha Day, Alana Piccoon Lewis.
I'm sorry. Let me ask, any women on that board?
Sade.
Okay.
Yes, Sade. She's the only one, unfortunately.
Okay. They're all Philadelphia residents. There are
Yes.
women on the board, and there's people of color on the board. Ms. Sade. Okay. And who are the other 2 members?
So Lee Wong, Bernie Boomwasser, and Sonny Pobowski.
Okay. All right, then. Let me make sure I've wrapped up here. For FY16, you show a current participation level of 29%. What strategies are in place, or is the department thinking about to institute to move to the administration's goal of 35%?
So while it shows that we're at 29% for 16, we believe and hope that we're going to hit 30% this fiscal year, and we are continuing on many fronts. One is contractor seminars. There was one a couple weeks ago at Venice Island. It was 120 folks showed up. Contractors showed up, which was really good. I was there. It was a really good event.
Where was it?
At Venice Island.
At where?
The theater in Venice Island on Main Street, Councilman Jones's district.
Oh, okay. All right
It
then.
was a nice venue because there's an auditorium there, and so we were able to fit a lot of folks in there. It was, and it's right by the river, so it's nice. But we have quarterly updates in our Take Part publication, and we work on maintaining relationships with the building trades.
Okay.
And the building trades and the unions, coordinating with businesses, and education programs and workshops.
Can you please make sure that council members get notices of anything you're doing around MBE, WBE participation, so that we can assist you in casting the net even wider for
that'd be
those who are
great.
looking to do business with it? Can you just make that a regular protocol in your department to notify council members? There are many of us that pay attention to that type of information and would be pleased to pass it on.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
The
you.
last question is, speak in a bit more detail about the biosolid services contract that you have, the $22 million contract you have with them. How long is it? And just provide some detail for the record.
Yes, that's that contract is a 25-year contract.
25 years.
Yes, it was, the first year was in 2008, and it's saving the department a lot of money, and thus our ratepayers a lot of money. They are taking our solids, our sludge from our 3 wastewater treatment plants and thickening it and then heat drying it. And it makes these little black pellets, which are moved by rail to Florida for the orange groves, for fertilizer for the orange groves. It's also used on farmland in this area, Jersey, Pennsylvania, Maryland, as well as one of the uses I really get a kick out of is Lehigh Cement uses it as fuel, and then organics left. The residual is used as part of the aggregate added to the cement.
I
so
see.
that's a zero waste. I mean, it's all zero waste, but that one I'm particularly fond of.
How long have you been in the department?
Since 1982.
Okay. All right. All right, thank you very much.
You're
Thank
very
you, Mr.
welcome.
President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Thank you, Commissioner. We're going to take a break till 2:15. You don't want to leave?
We're all set.
Thank
you.
Hang with us a little longer. Thank you all so much for your
Thank you.
testimony.